The pattern you can't break. You finally break through to a new income level. You're making more money than ever before. You feel like you've finally cracked the code. Then, within weeks or months, something happens. An unexpected expense. A client leaves. An opportunity falls through. And before you know it, you're back to your normal income. The same number you always land at, no matter what you do. You're not unlucky. You're not cursed. Your nervous system is collapsing your wealth timeline back to familiar territory. Because here's what nobody tells you. Your nervous system doesn't care about your goals or your potential. It cares about survival. And to your nervous system, survival means familiar income. Not higher income. Familiar income. Until you understand why your system keeps pulling you back to baseline, you'll keep experiencing the same frustrating cycle of breakthrough and collapse. Let me explain what I mean by wealth timeline collapse. In quantum mechanics, timelines aren't fixed. They're probability fields that collapse into reality based on observation and energy. You have multiple potential financial timelines existing simultaneously. The timeline where you're broke, the timeline where you're comfortable, the timeline where you're wealthy, the timeline where you're abundant beyond measure. Your consciousness and nervous system determine which timeline collapses into your lived experience. When you break through to a higher income level, you've temporarily shifted into a wealthier timeline. You're experiencing a reality where more money flows to you. But if your nervous system hasn't truly integrated this new level as normal, it perceives this wealthier timeline as dangerous, unfamiliar, threatening. So it does what nervous systems do. It creates circumstances that collapse you back to the timeline it recognizes as safe. Back to your baseline. Back to normal. This isn't conscious sabotage. You're not deliberately choosing to return to less money. This is happening at the autonomic nervous system level, below conscious awareness. Your nervous system has a wealth set point, a specific income range that it's been programmed to recognize as me and safe. When you exceed this set point, your system goes into alarm mode. This is too much. This isn't us. This is dangerous. Return to baseline. And it orchestrates a collapse back to familiar territory. The collapse pattern looks different for different people, but the mechanism is the same. Maybe you make more money and immediately create an expensive crisis that drains it. Maybe you lose clients or opportunities just as fast as you gain them. Maybe you make great income for a few months, then hit a slow season that brings your average back down to baseline. Maybe you unconsciously underprice new offers or accept low-paying work that pulls your income back down. All of these are your nervous system collapsing your wealth timeline back to familiar. What makes this so frustrating is that you can see the higher timeline. You've experienced it. You know it's possible because you've been there. But you can't stay there. It's like you're being pulled back by an invisible force, and no matter how hard you push forward, you end up at the same place. This isn't a strategy problem or a market problem. This is a nervous system regulation problem. Your system is regulating your wealth back to its programmed baseline. The baseline itself was established years ago, usually in childhood, through your family's income level, messages about money, and experiences of financial stress or stability. Your nervous system encoded a specific income range as normal for people like us. This encoding happened before you had conscious choice about it. And now, decades later, that encoding is still running, unconsciously collapsing any timeline that deviates too far from the familiar baseline. Understanding timeline collapse is crucial because it explains why willpower, motivation, and strategy alone don't create lasting wealth. You can willpower your way into a higher timeline temporarily, but if your nervous system hasn't shifted its baseline, it will collapse you back. You can get motivated and excited about new income, but when the motivation fades and your nervous system reasserts control, collapse happens. You can implement perfect strategies, but if your system is unconsciously sabotaging to maintain baseline, the strategies won't sustain results. The good news is that timelines are quantum, which means they're not fixed. Your baseline can shift. Your nervous system can be reprogrammed. But you have to understand what you're actually working with. not just your conscious goals, but your unconscious regulation system that's been protecting you by keeping you at familiar income levels. The work isn't just about reaching new levels. It's about staying at new levels by making them the new familiar. The neuroscience of wealth relapse. To understand why wealth timeline collapse happens, you need to understand the neuroscience of money baseline regulation. Your brain doesn't experience income as numbers, it experiences income as safety or threat signals. And your brain's number one job is keeping you safe, which means keeping you in familiar patterns, even if those patterns include financial struggle. Your money baseline is encoded in your basal ganglia, the part of your brain responsible for habits and automatic behaviors. This is old brain, survival brain, unconscious brain. It runs your default patterns without requiring conscious thought. Over years of experiencing a certain income level, your basal ganglia encoded that level as normal. Now it runs an automatic program to maintain that level, just like it runs automatic programs for your posture, your breathing patterns, your sleep-wake cycle. When you exceed your baseline, your amygdala, your brain's threat detection center, activates. It registers the deviation from normal as potential danger. Not because higher income is actually dangerous, but because unfamiliar equals potentially threatening to the amygdala. It can't distinguish between unfamiliar and good, and unfamiliar and dangerous. It just knows unfamiliar, and it errs on the side of caution by creating a stress response designed to return you to familiar territory. This stress response includes cortisol release, which impairs your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for good decision-making, long-term planning, and impulse control. So right when you need your best judgment to sustain your new income level, your stress response is sabotaging your cognitive capacity. You make poor decisions, act impulsively, lose focus, all unconsciously designed to collapse you back to baseline where your amygdala can calm down. There's also a dopamine regulation issue at play. Your brain's dopamine system is calibrated to your baseline income. When you're below baseline, dopamine drops and you feel motivated to work toward baseline. When you're at baseline, dopamine is steady and you feel okay. When you're above baseline, dopamine spikes initially, excitement of success, but then your brain downregulates dopamine receptors to maintain homeostasis. This downregulation makes the new level feel less good over time, which reduces motivation to maintain it. Your nervous system also uses a process called interoceptive prediction. It constantly predicts what should be happening in your body based on past patterns, then tries to make reality match the prediction. If your nervous system predicts, "We should have this amount of money," it creates behaviors and circumstances that fulfill that prediction. When reality doesn't match prediction, you have more money than predicted. Your system experiences this as prediction error and works to correct it by collapsing back to predicted baseline. There's also the phenomenon of identity-income incongruence. Your sense of self, who you believe you are at the core, has an associated income level. I'm someone who makes this much. When your actual income exceeds your identity-associated income, you experience cognitive dissonance. Your brain resolves this dissonance not by updating your identity, which is hard, but by adjusting your income back to match your existing identity, which is easier. This is why identity work is crucial for sustaining wealth shifts. Another factor is what neuroscientists call allostatic load, the cumulative stress your system experiences from operating outside its set point. Every day you maintain an income above your baseline, your nervous system experiences this as stress, as effort, as operating outside comfort zone. This allostatic load accumulates until your system can't sustain it anymore and collapses back to baseline where the stress load drops to zero. This explains why people can maintain higher income for a while but eventually burn out and regress. Your brain also has mirror neuron networks that reinforce baseline through social comparison. If everyone in your family and social circle makes roughly the same amount, your mirror neurons keep you aligned with that baseline. When you exceed it, your mirror neurons signal, "We're deviating from the tribe." This threatens belonging. Your nervous system then creates collapse to restore tribal alignment, even if the tribe's baseline is financial struggle. Finally, there's the reticular activating system, RAS, your brain's filter for what information to notice. Your RAS is programmed to notice evidence that confirms your baseline. When you're above baseline, it starts noticing every small problem, every potential threat, every reason things might go wrong, because it's looking for justification to return to baseline. This selective attention creates a self-fulfilling prophecy of collapse. The quantum mechanics of timeline stability. Beyond neuroscience, there's quantum mechanics at play in why your wealth timeline keeps collapsing. Understanding this helps you see that you're not just fighting against your brain. You're working with fundamental laws of how energy and reality organize themselves. And these laws can work for you once you understand them. In quantum physics, observation collapses probability into reality. But observation isn't just looking, it's the entire state of your consciousness, including your beliefs, expectations, and nervous system state. When you observe yourself from a baseline calibrated nervous system, you're constantly collapsing the quantum field back to baseline reality, even when you're temporarily experiencing a higher income timeline. Think of it like this: your nervous system is the observer, and it's observing from a baseline frequency. Every observation it makes, every thought about money, every financial decision, every moment of relating to income, is collapsing infinite possibilities back to the reality that matches its baseline frequency. You might consciously want more money, but if your nervous system is observing from the frequency of, I'm someone who makes X amount, the quantum field keeps collapsing to that amount. There's also the principle of quantum coherence. For a timeline to remain stable, all parts of your energy field need to be coherent, aligned at the same frequency. When you break through to higher income, your conscious mind might align with that new level. But if your subconscious, your nervous system, your body, and your identity haven't all shifted to match, you have incoherence. This incoherence creates instability in the timeline, which leads to collapse back to whatever level has the most coherence, which is usually your baseline. The quantum field also operates on what's called the path of least resistance. It naturally flows toward the most stable, coherent state. Your baseline is deeply stable because it's been reinforced for years or decades. Your new higher income timeline is unstable because it's new, unfamiliar, not yet integrated. Given the choice between stable baseline and unstable new level, the quantum field will naturally collapse toward the stable state unless you actively stabilize the new timeline through consistent frequency maintenance. There's also quantum entanglement to consider. Your financial reality is entangled with your identity, your relationships, your environment, your beliefs. When you shift to a higher income timeline, all these entangled elements need to shift with you. But if your identity hasn't shifted, if your relationships still reflect baseline, if your environment still mirrors baseline, these entanglements pull your financial timeline back into alignment with them. You can't shift one element in isolation. Everything is connected. Another quantum principle is the observer effect over time. In quantum mechanics, the more frequently something is observed in a particular state, the more stable that state becomes. You've been observing yourself at baseline income for years, thousands and thousands of observations reinforcing that reality. When you shift to a higher timeline, you've only been observing that new reality briefly. The weight of historic observation pulls you back to the more frequently observed state, unless you accumulate enough observations at the new level to outweigh the old pattern. The quantum field also responds to what's called energetic density. Your baseline has high energetic density because you've invested so much time, emotion, and energy into that reality. Your new higher income timeline has low energetic density because it's recent and hasn't accumulated as much energetic investment. The field naturally maintains higher density states and allows lower density states to dissipate unless you consciously add density to the new timeline through consistent practice, embodiment, and emotional investment. There's also the phenomenon of timeline interference. Multiple timelines exist simultaneously, and they can interfere with each other. Your baseline timeline is like a strong radio signal that's been broadcasting for years. Your new higher income timeline is like a weak signal just starting to broadcast. The strong signal interferes with and often drowns out the weak signal unless you amplify the new signal enough to overcome the interference. Finally, quantum mechanics shows us that energy seeks equilibrium. Your system has established equilibrium at baseline. When you spike above it, you've created disequilibrium, which the system naturally works to correct. Sustainable wealth isn't about spiking above baseline, It's about raising the baseline itself so that higher income becomes the new equilibrium point your system naturally maintains. Breaking the collapse pattern. Now let's get practical. How do you actually stop the wealth timeline collapse and stabilize yourself at a higher income level permanently? This isn't about willpower or positive thinking. It's about working with your nervous system and the quantum field to create a new stable baseline. The first crucial step is nervous system recalibration through gradual exposure. You can't jump from 50K to 500K baseline instantly because the gap is too large for your nervous system to integrate. But you can shift from 50K to 60K, stabilize there until it becomes the new familiar, then shift to 75K, stabilize, then 100K, stabilize. Each step is small enough that your nervous system can adapt without triggering collapse. You're slowly recalibrating your baseline upward through manageable increments. Practice what I call income stabilization periods. When you reach a new income level, instead of immediately pushing for the next level, consciously pause and integrate. Spend at least 60 to 90 days maintaining the new level, allowing your nervous system to encode it as familiar. During this period, focus less on growth and more on making the new level feel normal, safe, comfortable. You're literally rewiring your nervous system's baseline before reaching for the next level. Implement daily baseline anchoring practices, rituals that train your nervous system that your new income level is normal. This might be looking at your bank account daily without panic or stress, practicing gratitude for the new level, visualizing yourself at this level as your permanent reality, speaking about this income as your baseline rather than as a peak. These daily practices create the repetitive observations that quantum mechanics requires to stabilize a new timeline. Work with your body to integrate the new baseline somatically. Your nervous system regulation happens in your body, not just your mind. Practice embodying the physical state of someone for whom this income is normal: relaxed shoulders, open chest, deep breathing, comfortable taking up space. When you notice your body contracting in fear of collapse, consciously breathe and relax back into the physical state of someone who safely maintains this level. Address the identity-income gap directly. If your new income exceeds what your identity can accommodate, you need to actively shift your identity to match. This means explicitly declaring new identity statements. I am someone who naturally maintains this income level. This is my normal, not my peak. I'm safe and comfortable at this level of wealth. You're consciously updating your self-concept to match your new financial reality. Create environmental coherence. Adjust your environment to match your new income level. If you're making more money but living in the same baseline environment, the environmental mismatch creates collapse pressure. This doesn't mean overspend, but it does mean making intentional shifts that signal to your nervous system, we live at this level now. Maybe it's your workspace, your clothes, your home environment. Small changes that reflect the new level help stabilize it. Build support systems at your new level. If all your relationships and social connections still reflect baseline, the social pullback to baseline is enormous. Consciously cultivate relationships with people who operate at your new level or higher. Not to abandon old relationships, but to create new neural pathways and mirror neuron patterns that support your new baseline. Your nervous system needs to observe others maintaining the level you want to maintain. Practice preemptive collapse intervention. Learn to recognize the early signs that collapse is beginning. Subtle anxieties about money, small sabotaging behaviors, opportunities you start to avoid. When you notice these signs, immediately implement your stabilization practices. Don't wait for full collapse. Catch it early and course correct before momentum builds. You're interrupting the collapse pattern before it completes. Finally, work with quantum timeline stabilization through consistent frequency maintenance. Every single day, tune into the feeling of your new baseline being permanent and stable. Feel the security of knowing this income level is your new normal. Practice living from the timeline where this has already been your reality for years. This consistent observation from the desired timeline strengthens its stability in the quantum field. Living from a new money baseline. Once you've successfully prevented collapse and established a new money baseline, everything changes. You've shifted from temporary breakthrough to permanent elevation. You're no longer fighting to maintain a level above your comfort zone, you've expanded your comfort zone to encompass the new level. Here's what this integrated state looks like and how to sustain it. The clearest sign you've established a new baseline is that your previous level now feels constraining rather than comfortable. The thought of returning to your old income creates the same discomfort that exceeding it used to create. Your nervous system has successfully recalibrated. What was once your ceiling is now your floor. This reversal is evidence that the new level has been encoded as familiar and the old level as unfamiliar. You also notice that maintaining your new income level feels effortless rather than stressful. Initially, staying at the higher level required constant vigilance and effort. But once it's integrated as baseline, it's automatic. Your actions, decisions, and behaviors naturally maintain this level without conscious effort. You've shifted from doing the new level to being the new level. This is the difference between performance and integration. Money starts flowing to you at your new baseline consistently rather than sporadically. Before integration, higher income was occasional spikes above baseline. After integration, the higher income is consistent and steady. You might have variations, but they fluctuate around the new baseline rather than collapsing back to the old one. Your income has a new center of gravity. Your nervous system responses to money completely transform. Things that used to trigger anxiety at the old baseline, bills, investments, expenses, no longer create stress because your system knows you operate at a higher capacity now. Your stress response has recalibrated to match your new baseline. You handle larger numbers with the same calm you used to handle smaller ones. You develop what I call baseline immunity. Temporary dips or challenges don't collapse you back to your old level. Before integration, any setback would trigger full regression. After integration, setbacks are just temporary variations that don't affect your baseline. You know how to return to your new normal because your new normal is deeply encoded. This resilience is the mark of true baseline shift. Your identity has fully integrated the new level. You're not someone trying to make this income, you're someone who makes this income. This isn't affirmation or performance, it's genuine identity. The shift is complete when you forget you ever struggled with this level. It's just who you are now. This identity solidity prevents collapse because there's no internal conflict pulling you back. You also notice that your next level starts calling to you naturally. Once one baseline is established, your system has proof it can shift baselines, which makes the next shift less threatening. You start to see patterns in how you create baseline shifts, which makes you more skilled at navigating them. Each new baseline builds capacity for the next, creating a progressive upward spiral. Relationships naturally reorganize around your new baseline. People who resonated with your old baseline might fall away while people who match your new baseline appear. This isn't about superiority, it's about energetic matching. You're attracting people and circumstances that reflect your new normal. This social reorganization further reinforces your baseline shift. Perhaps most importantly, you develop trust in your ability to establish new baselines. You're not trapped at any level. You know that baselines are programmable, that your nervous system can adapt, that timelines can be stabilized. This meta-awareness makes you powerful because you understand the mechanism of wealth creation at the deepest level. You're not at the mercy of unconscious collapse patterns, you're consciously creating your money baseline. So here's the path forward. Recognize that your wealth timeline collapse isn't failure. It's your nervous system trying to keep you safe by returning you to familiar territory. Stop fighting against your nervous system and start working with it. Shift your baseline gradually, stabilize at each level before reaching for the next, integrate the new level through consistent embodiment and practice. Make higher income the new familiar rather than the threatening unfamiliar. Because your nervous system doesn't care about your potential, it cares about your survival. And survival means familiar. The work is making wealth familiar. Making abundance your new baseline. Making higher income your new normal. When you do this, collapse patterns stop because there's nothing to collapse back to. Your new level is the baseline. This is how you break the cycle and create permanent wealth elevation. Not through willpower, but through nervous system reprogramming and quantum timeline stabilization. This is the foundation of lasting prosperity.